Hey YouTube, I hope that you're having a wonderful Sunday. I am on from Peter's Publishing House 25 doing another transcription video, and this transcription piece that I just recently transcribed is My Friend by Phish. And this song was played on the Weather Channel back in October and September of 2003. And the idea here is to get everyone to transcribe this piece. So hope that you will all tune into this live stream, and until I am done with this live stream, I'll let you know what the results are. So enjoy this time of showing. Enjoy the show, you guys. So, in order to transcribe this piece, you will need to make sure that you structure the time signature and key signature correctly. First of all, what we're going to do is the key signature is D major, which will be two sharps, F sharp and C sharp, and then the time signature will be a 6/8 time measure, but it will be counted in 2 full beats. So what you're going to do is there's a 4 measure intro until measure 5, which you'll do 8th note D to a 16th note D, and then an 8th note D. Then you will repeat this pattern, which I'm going to say that again, which is dotted 8th note D followed by 16th note D and an 8th note D, and then you're going to recapitulate the same theme, which is going to be D dotted 8th note followed by a 16th note D followed by an 8th note D, 16th note D, dot 8th note D to a 16th note D, and then regular 8th note D, and the same process will be repeated over and over again for measures 3 and 4. However, for measure 5, there is a change in the rhythm, which you'll do a D, which won't be a dotted chord, but it'll be a regular chord note, followed by an 8th note rest, and then B for beat 2, followed by an 8th note rest. And then for measure 6, you'll do A for a chord note, followed by an 8th note rest. Beat 2 will be a chord note G, followed by an 8th note rest. And then measure 7, you'll do F sharp chord note, and you'll find an 8th note rest, and 8th note A for B2, and then G, 8th note, and then F sharp 8th note afterwards. And what you'll do for measure 8 is you'll do E natural chord note followed by an 8th note rest, F sharp chord note followed by another 8th note rest, and measure 9 you'll hold a dotted half note G, and then measure 10 what I'm going to do is put an quarter note A followed by a 8th note rest, and then a G chord note followed by a 8th note rest, and then measure 11 is F sharp quarter, but remember these are not dotted chord notes, they're just regular chord notes, followed by 8th note rests. And you'll do a chord note E for the second beat of measure 11, and then a eighth note rest comes after the quarter note. And then for measure 12, you'll do a D followed by an quarter note D followed by an eighth note rest, and for the second beat of measure 12, you'll do D, E, F sharp, and those are all eighth notes, and then you will go back to the same rhythmic pattern as before for measures 13 and 14, which will be quarter note E for the first beat, eighth note rest before the second beat, and then the quarter note E, then eighth note rest, and measure 14 you will do same process as measure 13, which will be E, quarter note, followed by an eighth note rest, and then an quarter note E, followed by an eighth note rest, and then measure 15 you will do a dot half note E tied to an E quarter note for measure 16th, and then you'll do two 16th notes, which are A, B natural, and then for beat 2 of measure 16 you'll do C sharp, D, E in eighth notes, which I'm going to repeat again a little slower, which will be C sharp, eighth note, D, eighth note, E, eighth note, and for measure 17 you will do a B natural, and then you will do for measure 18 is D, quarter note for the first beat, followed by two 16th notes, C sharp, 16th note comes first, and then comes second will be D, 16th note, and for the second beat of measure 18 you will do E natural, 8th note, followed by an F sharp, 8th note, to a G, 8th note, and then measure 19, the notes will be C natural, dot a quarter note. And then what you will be doing next for measure 20 is F natural, quarter note for the first beat, followed by two 16th notes, which will be C 16th, D 16th, and then for the second beat of measure 20 you'll do E natural, 8th note, followed by an F natural, 8th note, and a G, 8th note, and then for measure 21 you'll do A natural, quarter note, followed by a B flat 8th note to a quarter note G with a 8th note rest after that, and then measure 22, what you will do is G, quarter note for the first beat, followed by A flat before the second beat of measure 22, and then for the second beat of the same measure you will do E flat, quarter note, followed by an F 8th note, followed by two quarter notes, two dotted half notes I mean, for measures 23 and 24. And then for measure 25, you're gonna do an E natural for the first beat of measure 25, followed by a C natural 16th note and a D natural 16th note as well, followed by the second beat of measure 25. You'll do E natural 8th note, F natural 8th note, G natural 8th note as well, and then measure 26 you will do a dotted half note D, and measure 27 is going to be a dotted quarter B flat on beat 1, and for beat 2 the notes will be G, A, B flat for beat 2, and then E flat for measure 28. Excuse me, that note is now going to be a dotted half note E flat at measure 28, and then measure 29 you'll go A flat quarter note followed by 2 16th notes, which are F natural 16th note followed by G 16th note, and then for beat 2 of measure 29 you will go G 8th note, A flat 8th note followed by B flat 8th note, and for measure 30 what you're going to be doing is it's more of a major third up, which is going to be a C natural followed by a minor third up, which is going to be an 8th note D flat, followed by a half step but and then for the second beat of measure 3 you'll do an A flat quarter note followed by an 8th note rest. Measure 31 will go D quarter note D followed by an 8th note E flat, and B flat quarter note followed by a C, not C sharp, C natural 8th note to D at measure 32. And then for measure 33 what you're going to do is do the recapitulation of measure 5, and the process to transcribing this section will be the same as before, and you will do D quarter note followed by an 8th note rest, B for the second B of measure 33 followed by an 8th note rest. Measure 34 will be a quarter note A followed by an 8th note rest, followed by a quarter note G on the second B of measure 36, followed by an eighth note rest. Measure 35 will be a quarter note F sharp followed by a eighth note rest. And then second beat of measure 35 will be A, G, F sharp, all in eighth notes. But for measure 36, you will do E quarter note followed by an eighth note rest. Second beat of measure 36 will be a quarter note F sharp followed by an eighth note rest. And measure 37 will be a half note G with no tie notes connected to measure 38. Measure 38 will be a quarter note A followed by an eighth note rest, and G quarter note followed on the second beat followed by an eighth note rest, and then measure 39 F sharp quarter note followed by a eighth note rest. Second beat of measure 39 will be a quarter note E followed by an eighth note rest. Then measure 40 you will be write a quarter note D followed by an eighth note rest, and the second beat of measure 40 will be D, E, F sharp, eighth notes, and then measure 41 will be a E quarter note followed by an eighth note rest, E quarter note on the second beat, and another eighth note rest, and measure 42 will be the same concept as the previous measure, which I hope that you can get an idea of what I've just said early on. And for measure 43, in the A major section of My Friend, what we're going to do is we're going to put a quarter note C sharp followed by a 16th note A natural followed by a 16th note B natural, and then for the second B of measure 43 you will go C sharp, D, E, and eighth notes, followed measure 44 you will do a quarter note D with an eighth note rest followed by a dotted quarter rest, and measure 45 you will do a quarter dotted quarter note D followed by 3 eighth notes on the second B of measure 45, which are E eighth note, D eighth note, A eighth note. And measure 46, what you're going to do is you're going to do dotted quarter notes C sharp on beat 1, dotted quarter D sharp on beat 2. 47 will be E natural quarter dotted quarter note followed by an S sharp quarter note on the second beat of measure 47, and then measure 48 you will write down a G sharp followed by a G sharp note tied together at measure 49. measure 50, you'll do a dotted chord E for the first beat, and then for the second beat you will do 8th note E followed by F natural 8th note followed by G 8th note, G dotted quarter at measure 50 on the first beat of measure 51, followed by the second beat of measure 51, which would be a dotted quarter E flat. And then for measure 52, what you're going to do is you're going to create a dotted quarter note G on the first beat, followed by 3/8 notes on the second beat, which are A flat, 8th note, followed by G 8th note, F natural 8th note, and measure 53, what you're going to do is A flat dotted quarter note followed by a second beat quarter note rest at measure 53. Measure 54, what you're going to do is A flat dotted quarter note followed by an A flat 8th note on the second beat, B flat on the for the next 8th note, and then C flat will be your next 8th note. And then for measure 55, you're going to do A quarter note followed by an F sharp 16th note and a G 16th note. And then for the second beat of measure 55, you're going to do A 8th note, B 8th note, C sharp 8th note, followed by a D sharp 8th note at measure 56, which is gonna be rhythmically a quarter note D sharp followed by an 8th note rest. And on the second beat of measure 56, you're going to be doing a dotted quarter note C sharp followed by an 8th note rest. Measure 57 will be the same melodic interpretation as measure 56, which will again be D sharp quarter note followed by an 8th note rest, and on the second beat of measure 57, which will be a quarter note C sharp followed by an 8th note rest. And then you will do this process one more time for measure 58, and I hope that you can get the drill. And then for measure 59, it just is basically, it'll just be basically a dotted half note D sharp for the B major chord. But before you are done tuning into this video, I will want you to show an idea of how to transcribe this section before it goes back to recapitulation of measures 5 and 33. So what you're going to do here is you're going to put a quarter note B followed by a G 16th note, A 16th note, followed by the second beat 8th notes, which are going to be B natural, C natural, D, within that G major chord for those two beats. And for measure 61, when the chord changes to an A minor chord, what you're going to do is you're going to create a C natural dotted quarter note for the first beat. For the second beat, you're going to do A minor arpeggio, A minor 6 arpeggio, which is going to go A 8th note, E 8th note to a C natural 8th note. And then when the chord changes to a C minor chord, it will be a C dotted quarter note, C natural, followed by a D natural 8th note, C natural 8th note, and B natural 8th note for measure 62, but measure 63, you will go back into D major mode, which will be basically the same melodic concept as in the very beginning, which is going to be a B natural quarter note followed by an 8th note rest for the first beat. Second beat will be quarter note E natural followed by an 8th note rest again. And then for measure 64, it will be D quarter note followed by a 8th note rest for the first beat of measure 64, and then C natural for the second beat of that same measure, followed by an 8th note rest. And you will do this transcription process for measure 65, which is again going to be what I've just told you about. And then for measure 66, what you're going to be doing is a D dotted half note carried on to another dotted half note, and the note is going to be D tied to another D, which will carry on to measure 67. And then measure 68, it will all be basically the same melodic figure as measures 5 and 33. So I hope that you will get the idea on how to transcribe My Friend by Phish, and hope that you'll get some accuracy on what you can achieve. And lastly, what you're going to do for measure 78 is a dotted a half note E followed by a quarter note E at measure 79, followed by 2 16th notes after the first quarter note in measure 79, which are going to be A 16th note followed by a B 16th note as well, followed by C sharp, D, E 8th notes on the second B of measure 79, followed by a quarter note D at measure E, followed by an 8th note rest and a second beat rest. And then for measure 81, what you will be doing is a dotted quarter note D followed by E, D, A, 8th notes on the second beat of measure 81, And then measure 82 will basically be the recapitulation of measure 46, which will be dotted chord note C sharp for the first beat and dotted chord note D sharp for the second beat, and then measure 83 you will do a dotted chord note E followed by a dotted quarter note F sharp, and for the second beat measure 83, and measures 84 and 85 will be two dotted half note G sharps basically tied together. So thank you for tuning into this live stream, and I hope that this lesson will help you transcribe My Friend by Phish. And thank you so much for watching, and until I'm back on next time, I will see you guys later. Thank you very much.